Welcome to this premium executive explainer. If you're managing supply chains, analyzing petrochemical trends, or making those really critical purchasing decisions, you already know that timing in the commodities market is absolutely everything. Today, we're decoding the polyoxymethylene market, better known as POM, and we're specifically looking at the data for the fourth week of July 2026. We've got a lot of ground to cover, from global feedstock shifts to localized regional bazaars, and we're going to distill all this raw data into clear, actionable intelligence that directly impacts your bottom line.
Okay, let's dive into this. The insights we're unpacking today come straight from Polymer Bazaar. They're a highly authoritative voice in market intelligence, renowned for delivering on three absolutely crucial pillars: price, prediction, and profit. In a landscape where a fraction of a cent can be millions in margin, having a trusted advisor is just a total game changer. So we're going to leverage their latest report to give you the strategic edge you need for the upcoming quarter.
Here's our quick roadmap for today. First, a global palm market overview. Second, we'll examine feedstock dynamics. Third, a look at the regional bazaars. Fourth, we'll measure the current buying pulse. And finally, we'll deliver our final purchase recommendation.
All right, starting things off with Section 1, Global Palm Market Overview.
Let's move to Section 2 and see how this builds into feedstock and global dynamics.
Look, you just can't talk about palm pricing without looking upstream at production costs, specifically methanol. 2690. I want you to really lock this number in your mind. 2690 RMB per metric ton. According to the absolute latest data, this is the current benchmark price for methanol feedstock. So why is this one isolated data point so incredibly critical? Well, because it serves as the absolute baseline for global palm production costs. Every negotiation, every forward contract, every spot purchase, the whole shebang is ultimately tethered to this single metric. When this number even twitches, the entire global supply chain feels the ripple effect. Just keep this 2690 figure as your mental anchor as we look at exactly how this foundational cost translates into regional pricing.
Which brings us right into Section 3, Regional Bazaar Analysis.
Now let's take a rapid-fire global tour to see how this feedstock baseline is actually impacting distinct economic zones. Starting over in the USA, free on-board prices are sitting at $1,475 per metric ton. We're seeing methanol prices drop by 3 cents a gallon there, which is pairing up with some notably weak demand. But contrast that with Europe, where free-delivered Northwest Europe prices are holding super stable at 1,600 euros per metric ton. Why the stability despite dull demand? Well, it's that classic summer effect, just a seasonal sluggishness that temporarily paralyzes major market movements. Meanwhile, jump over to China, and the dynamic flips entirely. Supply has actively tightened up, while demand has softened. This has created an environment of extreme caution. Buyers are strictly purchasing on an as-needed basis. Nobody wants to carry excess inventory right now. Finally, looking at India, we're seeing some remarkable resilience. The spot bazaar is largely stable, excluding GST, moving in a very tight, narrow range of 151 to 157 rupees per kilogram across Mumbai and Delhi. And this brilliantly illustrates the complex global tug-of-war we're witnessing right now, showing exactly how local sentiment overrides global feedstock pressures in real time.
Let's shift gears to Section 4, the current buying pulse.
So, what is the actual undertone of the market, and how are procurement officers behaving? Now, what's really interesting about this is the delicate balancing act taking place. On one side of the scale, we've got modest improvements in demand combined with a slight tightness in material availability. These two factors are actively working to support a positive bazaar sentiment. They're the upward pressure. But on the flip side, we still have adequate overall supply. This adequate supply acts like a heavy anchor, preventing any significant runaway movement in spot prices. It is a perfectly balanced scale, guys. The upward pressure of tightening availability is being completely neutralized by just enough supply to keep the market from boiling over. It's a very tense equilibrium, and as supply chain professionals, this is the exact moment you need to be paying the closest attention.
And here is the macro-level warning that could totally tip that delicate balance. Bazaar participants are keeping a very close watch on global crude oil fluctuations. This is the domino effect in action. Crude oil impacts methanol, methanol impacts POM. If we see a sustained increase in feedstock costs driven by crude oil, that adequate supply we just talked about, it won't be enough to hold prices down. Those increased costs will inevitably and perhaps rapidly be reflected in domestic POM prices. This macro trend is absolutely the wild card that could directly impact your procurement budget next quarter.
All right, bringing it home with Section 5, Final Purchase Recommendation.
We've laid out the macro overview, the feedstock baseline, and that tense market balance. Now, it's time to synthesize all this intelligence into a definitive mandate. I'll read it directly from the report. Tightness and availability could trigger higher prices, so we recommend buying at the current prices. So the crucial point is, this is the definitive stance from Polymer Bazaar for the 4th week of July 2026. The market is balanced for now, but that slight tightness we explored earlier, that's the canary in the coal mine. The window of opportunity to secure inventory at these stabilized rates is currently open, but the data strongly suggest it will not stay open forever. The strategic move here, based on all the evidence on the board, is to execute purchases now before that tightness triggers a real price spike.
If you want to dive even deeper into these metrics, here's your immediate action plan to leverage the full Polymer Bazaar ecosystem. Step 1, you can download the comprehensive PDF report by visiting polymerbazaar.com/future-trend/POM. Step 2, make sure you bookmark www.polymerbazaar.com to access daily updates and keep your finger on the pulse of the market. And step 3, if you need direct, localized market support for your specific procurement strategy, you can call their desk directly at +91 93754 24365.
I'll leave you with this final thought as you look at your procurement schedules for the coming weeks. We've seen the data, right? The market is in a fragile state of balance, and the underlying pressures are all pointing toward a tightening supply. The big question you have to answer for your organization is this: will you secure your POM supply now at current prices, or are you going to risk the impending squeeze from tightening availability? The data is crystal clear, but the choice is yours. Thank you for joining this explainer, and stay sharp out there in the bazaar.